Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of the Outer Realm. Hope everybody's holiday was awesome. Ours was awesome. Ours was quiet. Anyway, we are broadcasting live here on the International Public Radio via United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee. We love you muchly. And of course, Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker, the sonic surgeon. Yep. Award-winning composer. You can tell I've had a few days off of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music. Available everywhere that you can find basically any music streaming, Amazon, Spotify, iTunes, Bandcamp, etc., etc., etc. Tonight, we do welcome for the very first time on the Outer Realm, Gail Hayssen, I hope I said that properly, who's going to be touching on mediumship, remote viewing, paranormal, so much more. She sounds really delightful just dealing with her via email communication. You will notice tonight we are on our usual platforms, which is Facebook, Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover, News on the Flip Side, of course, the Outer Realm with myself and Amelia, Canada's Most Haunted, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, and United Public Radio. We're on Twitch, UFO Paranormal Radio. And as far as the YouTube go, we're on International Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio, which, of course, we'll see in the streams and we can definitely address. Hopefully, we're going to have a nice full house tonight. I know it's holiday time and all, but man, we miss everybody. There, the crickets. How's it going? Love the quaff.
Oh my gosh! Thank you. I'm I'm still cold. I went out for just a quick bit because I had to do my test, and I'm still cold. It's even though it's not. It's unseasonably warm for this part of Canada right now, unseasonably. And the West Coast is taking the beating we usually take at this time of year.
Oh, that's not good.
No, the West Coast is like -6 to -12, and that's Celsius. And we are in the plus. We're above the zero mark, which is crazy at this time of year. And it's raining. It snowed yesterday, but I woke up this morning and it was gone. I'm like, it feels a lot like the beginning of November, not really close to January here.
That's okay. I'm good with this weather. A little bit hit and miss, but the almanac says we're supposed to be actually having sort of topsy-turvy weather like that. Beats a lot of snow and cold. I'll take it.
It does. I
like the above zero bit.
I'm so worried when it comes to this kind of stuff, right? Because of global warming and everything, and it freaks me out because it's like really, and Ontario, Canada is like there's been so many flood warnings and there's so many things to be concerned about now. But at least they're allowing rain barrels back. I don't know if you remember, there was a time where you weren't allowed to have one. Like what?
Yeah, what?
But now they're promoting them to absorb the water in the urban city, but whatever urban areas. But anyways, I'm just beat from Christmas. What about you?
Yeah, it was quiet. Just behaved ourselves, stayed put, and it was nice. It was nice and quiet, much needed, because I have to say it's been. For me, I don't know about everyone else, everybody's busy, but I do several shows a week, not just our own, but other people's shows. And I research all the time. I deal with people pretty much every single day, and it's just like, I still keep doing that. That part doesn't go away, except for all the shows. But the research still happens, and just because I love it, and I don't think it's sort of like becomes almost addictive. And and people, when they're having problems, doesn't really matter when, right? So that's just the way it
Exactly.
is.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So that's okay, but that's we're going to roll right into 2022, probably much the same.
Very quiet here as well.
Yeah.
And for the new year as well. It's just that, without getting into it too far, it's just a little too risky right now. It's too easily spread. So more than anything, to protect my daughter. But it is what it is. We're not new to this.
No.
This isn't new.
No.
But hopefully this time next year, things will be more resolved and more in control, because I do believe we're at the end of this.
Yeah.
Well,
so. I will take your word for that for sure.
Or we can ask our guests tomorrow night.
No, yeah, exactly. We'll figure it out. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a big old question for that. So, But tonight we have a really interesting guest also. I have just fired her off the link. So if you want to just slowly.
Yeah, I've
hello, Wes. Best wishes for Happy New Year. Sorry, same to you.
Oh no, I
Hi,
can't
Jamie.
see anything.
Hi, Wayne. Okay, go.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
No. Oh.
No, I see your comments. I don't see anybody else's unless he commented beforehand. I don't know. I can't move. Well, we'll see. I don't know if my screen's frozen. Yeah. I don't know if my Hi. Yeah. I think my screen's frozen. Just where the comments are.
Okay.
Because I tried to move them and they won't move.
Oh.
Yeah, as always with all of our guests, the extensive bios are on our Facebook page. Please come by and give us a like, and you could read more about them, as well as their links to connect to them, even though they give them out at the end of the show. If you don't have a pen or paper, don't worry about it. You can just go to our Facebook page and you'll find it there. So tonight's guest, I've been so excited to have her on, and I'm so interested in everything that she does. She's worked with shamans. She's worked with miraculous healings, remote viewing, had dreams that solved mysteries, and has been a test subject for scientific research in the field of metaphysics. Presently, she is known in the research community as a telepath, psychic, and remote viewer. So that's she's really exciting and super gifted.
Oh yeah. As soon as she gets in here, we'll pop her on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, it's fascinating. I'm always fascinated by people's journeys. We have such an amazing variety. Hey, Zach, man, such an amazing variety of people who come on the show, and we hear so many amazing experiences. Things that they've been through, what brought them to present time and the path that they're all currently experiencing. It's like some of them are wild, and she sounds like she's had a really good time getting there.
No kidding. I know there's so much more in her bio, but I don't want to give it away because I want her to tell the story. That's why I said, you can get more deeper into it by going on our Facebook page later. Not now.
No, absolutely. I just want to make sure it did absolutely go through, and it did. Okay, good.
Okay, I can see Joe's been.
Joe's having a good time, is he? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm waiting for the link. Okay, having trouble. I can go to StreamYard if you let me in. Waiting for you, darling. 1 second. We are waiting for you to arrive. Very strange.
Did she need to click on the link?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think. We were waiting for you to arrive. Having trouble. I can go to StreamYard and I'll let you in.
You need a nap.
I know. I'm going to send the link again. Paste. Here it is. It is. I can't type, people. Bear with me.
Hi, Rick. Rick, I can see everybody. Hi, Rick. Hi, Zach. Hi, Wes. Hi, Janie. Hi, Wayne.
Okay, there
not that I wouldn't have said hi anyways, but at least I can see everybody's name here.
Yeah, I just don't know what's happening. Yeah,
Was she aware that she needs to click on that link, or
I sent it? Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I sent it again.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. Here it is again. All right, let's do it. So, oh my gosh. Yeah, so
I need to dim the light.
Everybody in chat, waiting on the guests. So, how was everybody's Christmas? What everybody do? Anything exciting? Yeah, what'd you get? We want to know what Santa brought you. Or nosy Nellies, tell us.
Oh my God, I see no evil, speak no evil. Okay, Joe.
Oh, you're going to hear all kinds of it when the show's over. So, oh my gosh. Okay, still waiting. Hold on.
Rick, I read part of your chapter. Looks really good. If you're still listening, I'm not sure if you're still there, or you just said hi and left.
I'm a streamer. It says enter studio. Okay, then
click enter.
Click enter. Okay.
So she just missed a step.
Yeah, that's okay. I like. Did you hear that in my email?
Gift cards, alcohol, great Christmas overall.
I know. You sound like you're ready for New Year's already.
Socks and underwear always good.
No, I know. This is awesome. But I think she's close, the guest, because she's click enter. I'll have to just click enter to come into the studio. Yeah. Earplugs in and close my eyes. You're funny. Oh, Joe, you are amusing. You are amusing. There we go. Right there.
Yeah.
Put earplugs in and close my eyes. We're still going to razz you, just so you know. So, yes, we are.
Absolutely. After you give us our numbers.
Yeah, that's just true. I don't want to hear anything about that. We won't do anything
before that.
No, exactly.
I don't want to piss you off.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Am I the only one who's carved out over Christmas? Like, seriously, if I see another carb, I'm going to fall off my chair. I'm like feeling, it makes you sleepy.
Well, turkey makes you sleepy.
I don't eat turkey. I don't like turkey.
I'm backstage.
But yeah.
I don't.
Does she have the wrong link? Maybe send her another link. Maybe she's clicking on someone else's. I can't see anything because I'm on the other.
Okay, I'm going to try this, guys. Give me a moment.
And see what happens there. And for those of you that are not watching, I'll just keep yammering. So what kind of food did you guys have for Christmas? I gained 5 pounds from all the carbs. Yeah, no kidding, right, Zach? I think a little bit more. I put on a pair of size 4 jeans and I was like to go out today. So I think chocolate went a little too far.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't turkey. Your bone and rib. Oh yeah, baby. Okay. I don't even know what you just said, Joe, but yeah, I'm not a fan of turkey, but I do eat turkey deli meat. I just don't like turkey.
Yeah. I'm not big on that.
No, I'm not big on that. Our tradition is on Christmas Day is lasagna, so that's what I made, and that's why I'm still tired because I kept eating the leftovers. So Zach, I think I'm past your 5 pounds. And if you're doing keto, you would have gained 5 pounds just looking at the food.
Oh yeah.
Christmas, because that's all it takes to gain weight after keto. But yeah, so I said I'll do it like everybody does every year, but I work out all year, but I'm giving myself a break and I'm just going to enjoy it. And then I'll worry about it next week.
So for our paranormal people listening who are in chat, have you guys had any increased paranormal activity?
Yeah.
Over the course of the last couple of weeks? Because I know here in the house, absolutely.
Me too.
Yeah. It really feels like, I tend to wonder if the spirits of the house here, because they're still very aware and if they still celebrate, because we've seen all kinds of stuff on the cameras, even like when there's nobody here and the cameras keep being set off and then you're looking and there's all kinds of crazy things going on,
Yeah. I told you about my dad's silhouette in the television, which
Mhm.
I'm never in the living room. I really rarely sit. First of all, I hate the TV that's in there. It's a little
Right.
too realistic. These new TVs are so crisp that I can count people's pores and I don't want to. So
Right.
I hate the television in there, and I just sat down for a minute because I was talking to John and Savi, and I just sat down for a minute,
Right.
and because they're always watching sports in this house,
Right.
especially when you got a kid who's in the industry, so in the field. But anyways, I just sat down
Right.
for a minute, and as the TV went black to go to the commercial, I saw my dad's silhouette, and I was talking about something that he would have had a say in. So that was pretty interesting. How are we doing with
Oh,
Gail?
she's struggling.
Is she on Chrome? That would be the only reason I could see her not having not being able. And you obviously resent the link.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's what her
Michelle's
issue
thorough,
is
so
now.
if you can't get in, it's something on your end. Yeah.
Yes. So we will just have to bear with it a little bit.
Yeah. So tell us if you had any experiences.
Yeah, come on.
Let us know in
Paranormal
chat.
peeps. We've got
That'd be
Rick
interesting.
McCallum and Wes Coleman.
I think Rick just said hi, ladies, and left.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Rick's 3 hours behind, so he's probably having dinner.
Yeah, this is true too. This is true too.
He's in LA, so he's probably having dinner.
Yes. Well, I
Yeah.
don't know. Like I said, here it's been active in this house. Hear all kinds of things going on at night. This frequency thing's been happening a lot here also.
I wasn't impressed stepping into that yesterday. I was just like, why did I do that?
I know, it's just like really, really high pitched. I'm sorry, I'm having a whole other. Oh, he's here. Okay. Already on my tea. Husband's on his way.
Oh, that's good.
All
She's
right.
got assistance.
All right, hold on.
I think she's just missing a step.
Okay, we are waiting.
Because if she was using a different browser, it would have told her.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Popped up and said something. So
I completely agree. I completely agree. Oh, there she is. All right.
Yay!
Sorry, my husband had to come in.
Hi.
He had to come to your rescue, did he?
At least you have someone who can help you.
Yeah, you're good.
I guess every time I was doing it, I wasn't in the right browser, even though I hit Chrome.
Oh,
that's what I said to Michelle, psychic to psychic.
Yeah.
If it was a browser, it would have popped up.
Right, and it took me. I kept going to StreamYard, but it was like the last talk that I had been on kept coming up.
Yeah,
and so it kept saying, just wait here. So I've been here since before 6, waiting.
Oh my gosh! You have to actually leave the studio because that's happened to me as well.
Well, now that I have you, I'll let my husband leave, but he's going to have to give me
hi. Thank you.
The ladies say hi.
Oh, no, he likes
Michelle
the camera.
Amelia.
Aww.
Okay. All right. Okay, so sorry. I don't know if this is a pre-record or a live or.
Oh, no, we are live.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna have millions of people listening to you. So, hello, smoochy lovey. We love it.
Okay, well, so we'll just start at the beginning again. And also, is everything good with the audio and the sound for you?
You sound great. You look
great. We are fine.
I've been waiting for this show since Michelle told me she booked you.
Okay, great. Well, I'm readjusting now from how can I get on to being here.
There you go.
That's okay.
You're okay.
So where we like to start, of course, is just, for listeners is we like to get into humble beginnings. What brought you to basically where you are today? Your journey, your story. Was it experiences that brought you into this field? Just we're gonna let you take it. You'll notice we'll let you talk quite a bit. We'll just intervene once in a while.
Well, I think I need a more specific question.
Oh, do
you?
Can you recall your first experience?
So everything we're referring to here has to do with the paranormal. Is that
whatever you want to talk about, it's your stage.
It's everything. Yeah, we have people from all walks of life come in here, top of their field. So you have a wonderful bio.
I guess my bio is interesting, but I never feel like I'm on any particular path.
Right.
I'm not really a researcher, and I'm not a.
Right.
I've been a subject in experiments.
Right.
I
But
live a
you work
unconventional
dreams?
sort of life. What's that?
Well, you work dreams, you're a remote viewer, you're a telepath. You have all kinds of fun stuff to tell us about. So maybe start there with your experiences there. What made you, were you naturally able to do this, or did you have to train to do this? Just tell us about your journey
No,
to here.
no, all those things come naturally for me. I haven't really trained to do them. I did
Right.
take a mind expansion awareness course when I was a teenager, and this is the first time I'm using headsets, and so it's a
Oh.
little different. I'm not sure if I like it or not.
Oh.
Anyways, because I can hear myself kind of muffly talking.
What you can
Right.
do is leave your left one on where the microphone is and just flip the other one up a little bit away from. That's what I do when I wear a headset. I use
think
one like a phone and I slide the other one back. Leave that one
Oh,
on because you have your microphone.
right.
Take the other side, the opposite side, and just slide it off your ear. There you go.
All right.
You feel
All right,
better?
let's see.
Better?
Oh, that is different. Oh,
Yeah.
much
A
better.
lot of years on a stage
Okay.
singing,
Yeah.
just saying. But
Right. I
yeah,
don't know anything
'cause
about
it
you two, but I
drives
can't
you
interview
crazy.
you.
Yeah, it drives you crazy when you have
Yeah, it sounded very
yeah,
muffled.
I
I'm not
understand
sure.
that.
I may go back to the just computer. Anyway, so uh, when I was a child, I had unusual experiences that seemed sort of normal to me, but it was only in finding out in later years that other kids and things didn't do necessarily some of the things that were happening to me. And I would say I would begin that with at a very young age. I was doing either astral projection or out of body, but I would sort of leave my body and travel around and see the people sleeping in my house and see myself sleeping. And I thought that was normal, but I came to find out that wasn't until I've been on shows
Oh,
like these where I found other comrades who, yes, that's what they experienced as a child also. So I don't
wow.
think it's that uncommon. I think it's common. It's just a matter of the memory
Mm,
or the person not forgetting that that had happened to them as a child.
mhm.
As a teenager, I was involved in something called mind dynamics. That was a awareness mind expansion kind of a course,
Mhm.
and it taught you how to go and do medical diagnosis on people's that weren't present in the room with you. So it was something you were doing at a distance,
Wow.
but there would be all the information written on a card that would tell you whether you were accurate or not on the person's illnesses. And I
Mm.
did that for about 2 years, from when I was 16 till about 17 and a half. And I would do it, you know, on stage. I was a volunteer in the organization, and they would use that sort of information to sell the course to other people to take and say, you know, after 2 weekends of this course, you can do this diagnosis also and work on healing your friends or healing your family or healing distant people you don't know. So for that couple of years, that's what I was doing, which was doing, you know, distant healing on people and doing demonstrations in hotels and places in front of large groups of people so they would sell their course. But what
Mhm.
it did do was give me lots of tools and open up and show me ways that I didn't know that I was capable of doing things that were natural for me. But now all of a sudden I had skills to do other things like medical diagnosis.
Right.
But I stopped doing that when I was 17 because I had a very negative experience doing it, where I was feeling like I was starting to get possessed by someone who was dying. And
Oh.
so after that experience, I decided that for the rest of my life, I was never going to do anything except for the natural things that happened to me.
How
And there were
did you
Wow.
plenty
come
of
about?
them.
How did you come about realizing that someone who was passing was trying to step in?
Because I saw, well, it's very difficult to explain because it was a dream. I had to do an exorcism to get them out of my field or whatever the energetic thing that they were doing to me. And during that type of dream, that was really more than a dream because I had all of my senses in it. In
Mm-hmm.
that time, I saw exactly the place where I had done the healing on this person was part of the dream, and I could see the person in the dream. And when everything when I said that they could not do this and that they needed to move on, and everything changed and all the energy left, it's difficult to call that a dream because it was like doing work at the same time. So I don't know exactly what to call that.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was, I would say it was a dream-like state, but I wouldn't really call that a dream, what happened during it. So then I just had lots of experiences where I, you know, like I know it's not a great thing. You can call them blessing or curses, but often I can wake up and like know that someone I know has either been in danger or has died, or sometimes I physically can feel what it is. And these are, you know, I don't have a shingle hanging out or any of this kind of thing. These are just my regular everyday living kind of experiences that happen. So I just did those until 1998. And then in 1998, through my husband, who you just saw walking out the door, who helped solve my IT problem.
Can I hire him?
Oh, he's wonderful. He was working at a company called Interval Research, which was founded by Paul Allen, which at that time he was one of the richest men in the world. And it was a research and think tank place with all non-disclosure. So you didn't know what was going on in the place there. And two gentlemen who have been in the field for a very long time. I don't know if your audience knows them, but was Dr. Dean Radin and Russell Targ. And these are two men who have been working in the fields of parapsychology and remote viewing and many, many different things in this field, have written many books and talks. And they were starting a project there, a secret project called the Phenom Project. And when they were starting this project, they were looking for subjects to volunteer within the company to do this. And my husband volunteered me by telling him some of the stories of what it's like to live with me.
What
so
a guy.
He told
Throwing
some
under
of
the
my
bus.
stories. Yes,
He's
they
supportive.
said
He
yes.
understands. Yeah.
Right. I have to say, it does make a difference when your partner. My husband is actually a MIT and Yale alumni, and he has been with the MIT Media Lab from the beginning, and he's a very scientific kind of a guy. So getting involved with me has definitely shown him other possibilities that aren't necessarily scientific, and he's seen enough of them now that he doesn't question and he supports my experiences.
That's very cool. Yeah.
And it really is cool because it doesn't necessarily have to be that both partners have the same thing, but if one of the partners at least understands what the other one is experiencing and acknowledges it, it makes a very big difference in the relationship and in the feeling of the person that's having those experiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
He's been very supportive. He just, in the beginning, he just kept saying, my wife has gnarly powers.
Gnarly powers.
I love that.
I know. I like that.
When I find his missing keys and he's frantic, and I just see them where they are without knowing, that those are the kind of things that are very helpful for him also. And he's also come to know that when I say all of a sudden out of the blue, call this person right now, he now knows that you do it right then, because that's when the right moment is to strike, whether it's a job thing or something's happened to someone, whatever it is. When I have that feeling, he understands that now, and he has no problem with, okay, I'll call.
Nice.
So
that's fantastic.
Nice. Yes.
That's how I ended up. I had never thought I would do anything professional or any of this kind of stuff ever again after I felt sort of used by that organization, after I'd done hundreds and hundreds of, medical diagnosis cases for them, volunteer for free, and they were using it to make money. If they weren't using it to make money, then it would be a different feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, it's different. It's the integrity.
Exactly. And so what happened with the next experience was I was not to be paid any money. It was a volunteer thing, but it was for science. And it wasn't for anybody to make any money. And it felt like, that I could do. You know what I mean? I mean, I had no idea what they were going to ask me to do, but I was offered myself up to whatever experiments they wanted to do. I was happy to participate in any of them. And because of there was a lot, all kinds of different experiments that I did during that time, and still have done, for many years now with them. it's taught me things about myself that I didn't know. So I'm really grateful to them for inviting me into this kind of a situation. And then for, again, to be able to learn that, I can tell them what a picture is that's not selected yet, but they're going to show it to me in 2 hours and nobody knows what it is. I didn't know I could do that,
Right. Also cool.
That's awesome.
Or I was in another experiment where you're just hooked up to a lot of different electrodes, and they're to do with your sweat, your heart rate, your different bodily physiology
glucose
things,
and blood pressure and
right?
pulse.
So I'm all hooked up to all this different stuff, and in that experiment, it had nothing to do with me clicking a button or saying the answer. In that, they were seeing whether my body could sense danger before danger comes. So you would look at a group of, say, I can't remember, it was about 40 photos or something. I'm not sure exactly. And they flash by for a few seconds. It's not it's not like you're looking at the picture for a half a minute or 2 minutes or something like that.
It's quick.
Yeah.
And it's quick, but the machines tell whether your body senses the fear before it's going to come. And they don't know, because it's a random number generator, they don't know when the scary accident victim from a car crash is going to come up. But my body, these are the things they tested me for. My body could sense those things before they come up. I think it's a very similar feeling to anyone that's a mother or has experienced the fear of a child being endangered, or them knowing exactly, or preventing them, or they get an adrenaline rush and they grab the kid before the car gets them. It's that same kind of, all these things. Everybody has all these things. It's just a matter of how much they are opening up to the ability to know that, the more I listen to my inner voice, the more I can be directed with intuition, say, than my actual mind's direction.
It's all about trusting your feelings, right? Trusting the voice.
Yes.
And or whichever way you're getting those messages, just trust it.
Whether it's pictures or bodily feelings or your stomach, or, like with some people, they may get a feeling in their stomach, in the gut. And in that gut feeling, it's telling them something. But as we get older, sometimes we push those things to the side because we've been told, don't be silly. What do you mean you had a hunch? Oh, no, that's a coincidence. And those kind of things, make it harder for that voice. It kind of quiets the voice a little. And I think that's one of the best things to share with listeners, is that they're all, if you want to use the word psychic or intuitive or whatever this is, everybody has this in them. It's just a matter of, opening up to the possibilities.
Right. I agree. I agree. There's, a lot of people who theorize out there that, oh no, we're not everyone is gifted. But I do agree with you. I am of the same mindset that everyone has more than the senses that they're taught, that there are other senses. And, as children, they probably use them.
Oh, they did.
quite readily, right? And then you just tend to lose them. I think life just does that to you, and some people retain them and others do not. Tamara says everyone is wired different, so indicators are different.
Absolutely. Great way of saying that, Tamara. That's a great way of saying that. It's so true. I always say, the reason why homicide detectives are so amazing is because they trust their intuition. They trust their gut. They trust the clues to lead them. And that's kind of like psychic, where you have the vision and you have some people see photographs, some give voices or whatever, and you trust that direction. And that's what they're doing. They're trusting their gut. That's why some people are just better doctors or better at nursing or better at whatever, or even just, working in a restaurant as a server. It's all, I believe everybody uses intuition all day long and they don't realize how much.
In fact, to back your thing about that, what you're saying, Russell Targ often talks about the story of how they found this gentleman called Pat Price. And he was one of the best remote viewers that they were working with during the 20 years of the secret program at Stanford Research. And they said he was that was how he did his police work, was all intuitive gut, and he was very successful at it. So when they decided to teach him remote viewing, he became one of the top remote viewers that they had, because he had that skill already developed also from being in the police work. But not all police department people are like he was.
Mm-hmm. No.
No, it's true. You always have those homicide detectives that stand out, and they're not necessarily the ones that have a television show. So anybody listening, I'm just saying,
it's not Columbo.
You don't necessarily, it's not necessarily who you think it is on ID, or I'm not even going to mention names because I've worked with them, but they're all fantastic, but there's a lot of them that aren't in the limelight. And even bounty hunters, it's not just because a lot of them have spent time in prison. Not all of them have. A lot of them use their gut instinct to understand which direction their purpose going in. So I love that part. I love how the science mixes with the spirit side when it comes to police sciences. I love that so much.
Well, I have to say that actually I'm finding that more in the science community, period, because I've been involved with, whether it's somebody speaking at a conference, or if someone I know and have become friends with, but I've been involved with this sort of remote viewing community and people of that type of like mind for 20 years now. And I've noticed that in the conferences and things compared to the conferences I went to 20 years ago, to the ones that I go to now, same conferences, the people are discussing and blending spirituality in with the science. And I didn't see much of that 20 years ago. So I think that that's really happening. And I think that on my podcast, I've had an interview with Dean and with Russell, and we talk about spirituality and meditation and how these things have affected and how long they've been doing this. And who knew that some of these scientists have been meditating since the 60s? So it's not something you think, or until you start having an intimate conversation to find out, oh, that's very interesting. I thought, these scientists didn't think about science.
That was big in the 60s, wasn't it?
It was, but not when you're in that field, right?
But they may not have been in that field right away. Like that was the 60s where was the age of just everybody was just so willing to try different things and opening up the subconscious and zenning out. And I'm not at all surprised.
Hey, I was at Woodstock, 4th row in the front there, 1969. I was 14 years old.
No better zenning than
that. I ended up recently in the 50-year anniversary in 2019, I went back there for the first time in 50 years. Because I live in California now, but I went back because I was invited for a book release party by Dan Buxton, which was a book called 50 Years of Peace and Music, Woodstock.
Nice.
And I ended up being a contributor in the book, and all my photos I took when I was 14 are published in this book now. And
oh my God, how did that feel, Gail?
Oh my God, I can't tell you how it felt. Being in Bethel and on a stage talking to, a room full of people about my Woodstock experiences. And I'm sitting there with Amalia Rothschild, who was the photographer for all the years of the Fillmore East. Mm-hmm. And her and I stayed at the book producer's house, at Karen Greenberg's house. And so I got to meet and get involved with all these different people, and it felt like Woodstock all over again. And now we're all friends, and we all send each other cards, and I've come to stay with them, and they've come to stay with me. And that Woodstock thing,
beautiful.
And the other exciting thing was, because of that, they had different things that they collect for the museum. They want oral history, photos, written. So I've been asked to do all of them, and I've contributed to all of them so that they're forever in the archives there at the museum. In case I ever have any grandchildren, you never know. They can go and check up their old Granny Gail. But
right? Like, how fascinating is that?
You're a 14-year-old hippie,
14 years old, and you were part of such an incredible piece of history, a first for many generations at that festival.
Hey, at the 40-year anniversary, I was supposed to have a few people over to do they were going to jam and play piano. My husband plays keyboards, and someone got sick, so they canceled. And while I was making apple pies for this, I turn on the Woodstock video because I figure, it's the anniversary, may as well, have it in the background while I'm cooking, right? I had looked for myself in books and the films for years and never found myself. On the 40-year anniversary, there I was on the giant screen, a blonde flower child holding a daisy.
Oh, I love it.
That's a typical look too.
Yeah, very stereotype, but it's so cool that you got that.
It was at the 100th minute, and my husband kind of captured it off the film, but I can't express the emotion and crying that I had in seeing this, because I was looking for a little gray-haired person for some reason,
Oh, that's funny.
Old soul. Old soul. We'll go with old soul.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
That is so cool.
Though. It was one heck of a movement, but it was all about love and light and evolution and personal journeys
and freedom. It was a situation that you can't even understand how challenging it was to be with almost 500,000 people squashed like sardines in the mud and the rain with, no bathrooms, no water, no gas, no food. We happen to have had so much that we brought with us that we never wanted for anything, and we shared everything we had with everyone around us. But no event has ever been like that again.
No,
it's a piece
not even
of history.
Coachella.
Yeah,
no.
and I know they've tried to do that, but it was a special moment.
There's only one Woodstock.
You can't redo something so epic.
No.
You can't redo it.
No, and I think that it had to do with the climate. There was a tremendous amount of psychedelic drugs expanding everyone's minds.
Yes.
There was a time of the Vietnam War and the amount of unity in protesting that.
Agreed.
When 400,000 kids were singing "I Feel Like I'm Fixing to Die" rag by Country Joe and the Fish.
Yeah.
Which was, a protest song against the war. There's the feeling of that oneness with all that much humanity.
Yes.
It was a very special thing.
And you can't recreate that.
One last thing about that, because it's such a great memory for me.
Please.
Is that one of those interviewers said to me, "Have you ever tried to find the guys you went with?" And I said, well, one of them was my dear friend and became my boyfriend and my first love. And I said, and he had passed away.
Aww.
And the other three, I said, I never actually tried to find them, even though we grew up on the same few blocks in Flushing in New York. So I had decided that, okay, he's right. So I typed in the Google searches and, tried to do these things. I didn't come up with any of their information or contact. But oddly enough, I'm in a chat group called Friends of Flushing. One of the guys found me there, sent me a text exactly in the 2 weeks when I was looking. And after the guy had said, can you find him?
See, a positive side to social media.
Yes. And it came up and it said, the message said, is this Gail? Because if this is Gail Schneider, I've been looking for you for 40 years.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
He lives upstate in Pennsylvania. And he said, when we got together and got to speak with each other, he said to me, do you remember when you came back from California to visit me? And he said, I was tripping on acid and you did a tarot reading of me. And he said, you told me that I was going to be a farmer. He said, I just want you to know I live on a few acres of land and I have chickens and bees and fruit trees and I farm.
Oh, I love it. I love that he has bees. I love that.
Oh, and he was just the sweetest guy. So because of COVID, we've not been able to see each other because that was 2019 when we found each other.
Yeah.
So that was a really positive thing of, that whole way of internet really giving you something back.
That's beautiful. What a great story. Thank you so much for sharing
that.
Is I
wonderful.
feel like I've got a little, insight to that history. That is awesome.
But when you think about living in that time and having that kind of an experience, it's, to me, it's not uncommon to think that people would have been meditating and getting involved in all kinds, especially with the psychedelics. So that opens you right up. You're going to see all kinds of things, right? Not necessarily everybody goes, oh, you're hallucinating. It's not all hallucinating. It's opening up your subconscious and really seeing, opening up your mind's eye, So, I
didn't even realize then, but my husband, who's wasn't my husband then. We knew each other when he was 10 and I was 12. We met in the 7th grade,
Right.
but I didn't see him or know anything about him for 20 years.
Right.
And when when he called and we re-met again after 20 years, he
Right.
said, I'll never forget you asked me to go see Swami Satchidananda. He said, and I had never been exposed to any of these things, and you took me to see Swami Satchidananda. So at 15, and also I had been raised in a vegan commune in the early 60s, and I had been exposed to meditation and yoga and alternative healing and alternative food and all the kind of things that everybody thinks is so cool with the wheatgrass juice and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I did that in 1963. I don't want any wheatgrass juice now today.
Right. I love it though. I do. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It sounds like it's been such an amazing journey.
So when you asked me about I'm somebody who's never planned anything.
Right.
And I've never thought out, this is what I'm going to do. I never wanted to be married, and I had numerous marriage proposals. And I've been married twice now, from my first husband and now, and with my second husband.
Right.
And I've never planned what was going to happen, when I was going to have children, how I was going to do any of these things. I've always just taken everything how it comes and just kind of flowed along with it. And then I look at people who do all this planning and I think, should I be doing that? I'm 66 and I've never done it yet, so I don't think it's going to change.
No, you gotta do what works for you. Live on the edge.
Yeah, you gotta do what works for you. It'll change who you are, I think, if you do that.
It's not my way. In fact, when I was doing remote viewing, I've never been trained as a remote viewer. And I was visiting at Hal Puthoff's house, who was one of the founders of the lab that they had with Russell Targ. And Russell was a guest at his house. And so I went along as Russell's friend. And I asked Harold to the side. I said, Hal, tell me, should I be taking remote viewing classes? Or, I'm doing this for them, but would I get better? Should I do these things to get better and do a better job? And he said, no, when you're doing this naturally, you should just keep that way. You don't need to take any classes. You don't need to take any courses. And that's the way it is for me. I'm not saying that's the way it should be for another person, but for me, that's my best method.
Right.
Is just to go with what comes at me. I was initiated in 2011 into Mongolian shamanism by a Buriat shaman who had came from Mongolia to the United States. And she had stayed with me. And after she stayed with me, she came back, even though she was supposed to leave for Chicago. And she said, I couldn't go to Chicago. I need to initiate you as a shaman. I've been involved with shamans and shamanism for many, many years, but I never ever thought that that's what I wanted to become, or I'm going to take all these things and study to become a shaman. Instead, it was something that came to me, and it was really a wonderful thing because it taught me also and gives me, I feel I'm dressed in clothing that protects me if I want to do any kind of blessing or healing work with other people. And I've been doing that. I do that just, randomly a few times a month when somebody calls me up and says somebody died and I don't feel completed, and we do a ceremony together, and we have very wonderfully positive results with this. But I'm not actually following any particular training for that, but I was initiated in a whole 1 week of preparation and then an entire day of shamanic initiation, which put me into an altered state of being for some time during the ceremony. And I believe it felt like getting like a diploma or something. It just was the most wonderful experience that I didn't realize until I had it, how grateful I was to be acknowledged in that way.
Wow.
Yeah, because you've been acknowledged by different indigenous cultures, according to your bio.
Yeah,
that's very honorable. That's an honor. That's really special.
And I was just talking to one of the scientists about it, because it only occurred to me recently, since I've been doing these podcasts and these interviews, and I'm thinking about all these things again, is that I was doing telepathy in all these different cultures. So when I was in the Huichol Indians, who I'm still involved with today, it's almost 30 years my involvement with them, and
Wow.
I've been involved with the Mongolian people since 2005, I think.
Wow.
And the Huichols, it's been since the late 80s, 1980s, and I'm still involved. It's not like, oh, I had this one visit and we had this experience. No, it's been a lifelong thing of friendship and relationships and experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and a closeness like family. So I was interviewed about my Mongolian shamanism on Jeffrey Mishlov's Thinking Aloud show, which is a fabulous show, New Thinking Aloud. And I realized that when we were doing this shamanic initiation at my house for 7 days, we had no translator. And this woman doesn't speak a word of English. And the only words I know in Mongolian are, thank you, and which is bayatla. And, when you answer the phone, you say san banu. Other than that, that's my words. How could I possibly know what she wanted and do what she asked for 8 days? But we did. And we sewed all these snakes we had to make. It was laborious. It was labor intensive, mind and
Right.
body.
Right.
And I didn't know until a film crew came here from the University of San Francisco that were Mongolians who were doing a project on Mongolian shamanism, and they came up and filmed up here, and they did an interview with her and I, so I had an interpreter all of a sudden. And I liked when he asked the shaman Zagda, how did you talk to Gail when you don't speak her language? She said, I would just see Gail and she would come inside my head and I would tell her what to do and then she would do it.
Oh my gosh. That is so cool.
I love
So
that, though.
it made me realize that telepathy can't be just about words because,
Mm.
whether listeners believe this or not, I have read people's minds many, many times, but, and so that's something I know I can do, but it's in English. How did
Mm.
I do all these relationships in other languages? And when I traveled to Mongolia and I was there and we had no translator and I was there for close to a month, at one point when a young translator came and we'd start to talk, she'd say, you both just said the same thing. There's nothing for me to say, she said.
Oh my gosh.
And
I love that.
Well,
I
the more
love
that
It's
that.
you
annoying.
immerse, it's immersing. Like I immerse into the culture and the people somehow,
Mm-hmm.
and it has nothing to do with those words of vocabulary. Something else is going on. So I mentioned it, and I think it was to Jeffrey Mishlove, and he said, "Yeah, there isn't anyone who's has to fund that for the researchers to be able to do the scientific research about what is going on there, because there's something different going on if you can do that much communication." When I was in Japan and I was staying with Japanese families whose students had stayed with us, many years before, they were having it's difficulty in the family. I figured out everything that was going on, knew all the things, and I don't speak a word of Japanese, and there were strange, intimate things. So I'm just saying, Dean Radin has a book called Supernormal, which has been translated into, I think, 14 languages or something, or
Oh
12
my
languages.
gosh.
And he has a chapter in it on telepathy. And I'm the Gail in that chapter in telepathy, describing the Gansfield experiment. So he describes me in the experiment. Well, that kind of telepathy is a very different thing where I'm relating to a picture or everything is in English.
Right.
You're reading these things, you're picking these things up. But what is it when you're doing it in this other form? So, anyways, I'm
Mm.
just leaving that out as a big question to anyone. I don't know what the answer is, except I don't know how that actually occurs, but I know that
Mm-hmm.
it occurs.
Telepathy
That's
is something that is just so unbelievably
Well, until
crazy and so cool at the same time.
it's been very important tool for me. I don't
Yeah.
I don't even think of it in that way because it's helped me when I began with the Huichol Indians in the mountains of Mexico. It was the 80s. I was at 10,000 feet elevation where you can only get there by foot and burrow, and it took
Wow.
16 hours to get there.
Wow.
Now they have electricity going there. There was never running water. They have running water there now. There's a road that can take you up there and you can get up there, not have to walk the whole way. Well, so that I always seem to get to see these things before they change. So it was like I got to see the end of that era before all this technology came into their lives. Well, my friend Julio, that's not his Huichol name, that's his Spanish given name. Julio doesn't read or write. And I'm living here in Sebastopol in a house with everything technology you could want. He's up there in the mountains, but we communicate through dreams and telepathy where he will know. We've both had the moment where we know each other something bad happened and we had to call. So he is someone that I would use telepathy with all the time because there was no other way to get a message there. You couldn't just send a letter. You couldn't make a call. There's
That's
no other
true.
way. So he would get the feeling, or I would get the feeling, and he would go down from the mountain to the switchboard where they could make the phone calls, and he would make the phone call, and we would have the connection, and we would then verify what had just happened, and yes, he needs to come, or I need to go there, or whatever the information was. So
Wow.
I would call that the very important use of
Mm-hmm.
telepathy. And I
Mhm.
also believe in these other cultures before there was, in the old days or whatever. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people use telepathy a lot more than also amongst themselves.
Do you think that, in the new age of cell phones and cell phone towers, and do you think people who potentially have that ability are somewhat being like jammed up because of all the satellites and I mean literally everything messing with the
I'll tell
frequencies?
you, I don't know, but I feel like it could do that because
Yes.
there are times like how it feels like in my house energetically when the power goes out completely and there's that still quietness.
Mhm.
It just feels like that's really, even though we're all I'm hooked to my cell phone like anybody else. I don't want you to
Sure.
think I'm
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
but I do think that the uh, ways of not having so much frequencies and things all coming at you, I
Mhm.
think that definitely affects you. And it really depends on how sensitive a being you are, how much it affects you. Some people get affected very deeply by certain things. They can't
Mhm.
be in, certain areas or
Mhm.
things like this. Myself, I find being in large crowds of people or being in big cities. I mean, I grew up in New
Yeah.
York City. It doesn't
Right.
get a lot bigger than that,
No,
I know. I grew up
exactly.
in Toronto, so I understand. And I've been to New York City. And when I was visiting and I stayed just off of Times Square, I was right there. It was the worst 5 days of my life. It really was. I loved the city, but I loved leaving Manhattan. I didn't, when I walked up to Fifth Avenue, I could breathe. And it wasn't because Tiffany's. It was because the people just thinned out. But in Times Square, if people don't understand the concept of that kind of size and
It's a
city,
lot of
that
energy,
energy is really, but that, and
frequencies,
then
vibrations.
the talk, the tourists, my head was like this. And that's where I said, like, whenever we left, where I was happiest? The Bronx and Brooklyn. When we were checking those places out, I was like, I can breathe. This is
Well,
good. Did you
the
feel
neighbor,
like that growing up
well,
there?
the neighborhood I grew up in was Queens in Flushing,
Yes. Queens is
and
beautiful.
it was a very beautiful area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recognize it now because there aren't even any signs in English anymore. It has been taken over by the Asian population,
Oh,
which
really?
is
I didn't notice
really
that.
interesting. And the
Yeah.
homes like the home my father sold, he could have gotten a lot more money now.
I know, but that's always the way, right?
Always the way.
And Coney Island, I mean, come on. Like
My great
that was
aunt, that's where
beautiful.
she lived, and that's where we visited on a regular
Coney Island.
basis in
You
Coney
can't go
Island.
there and not have a burger or a hot dog. I mean, my
Oh,
God,
she lives right
that
down the
felt.
street from the boardwalk.
How did you feel when you were there? See, the boardwalk for
Well,
me was so amazing. It
I
was
left
so
New
so like
York.
refreshing.
I left New York what happened was my dad had dropped out and grew his hair long and got a pickup truck and took my 2 brothers and told my mother he's going to go to California and he's going to find a place to relocate. And I came out to visit him. I was in high school. I had just had the Woodstock experience. And he picks me up in this pickup truck, and I'm all dressed up like a New Yorker with, shoes with a, kind of a wide heel on it and a long maxi coat and a long maxi dress. And I'm going into the woods here, and, I'm stepping on my first banana slug in the shower, and I'm finding gross bugs and things I'd never seen before. And it's all communes and everybody's all living together and everything's a crash pad. And my dad loves this whole lifestyle, a gypsy kind of lifestyle. And I had never seen that type. I'd never sat by a creek. You know what I mean? I'd never heard the sound of running water. I never went to camp. So, it's like I didn't have a nature. I mean, our neighborhood was lovely with big trees and big houses.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And I always hung out at a park nearby. So that's where I had my nature was in that park.
Yeah.
So I went back to New York because it was I was in high school. It was during the break. And I went back and I knew I could never live there ever again. It was in that exact moment. I came back to the hustle, and back then it was very polluted in New York in the air. And I called my dad up and I said, I can't live here anymore, Dad. I want to come and live with you in the truck and live in nature and be with the trees and
for a medium, that's the best place to be. The best place
and
to
he said,
absolutely is. Yeah.
I'll give you a one-way ticket. He said, you can't go back if you're coming. I'm not paying for a round trip ticket.
Yes.
And my boyfriend, who I went to Woodstock with, was dodging the Vietnam War, and he had received his draft notice. So he ran from the draft, and we ran away together and flew out here. And
that's so romantic.
It was, it was paid to be psychic then also, because I would have dreams, and in the dreams there would be men knocking on my door, and I'd open it up and they'd be in suits with hats on, and I knew they were the FBI. And when I would have that dream, I'd get a phone call the next day from my grandma Schneider, and she would say, she spoke Yiddish, so her English was, broken English. She said, the ABC was here asking questions,
So
I love that accent. The ABC.
That's just precious.
So, that's, so I'm just saying these things that we're talking about that some people call gifts or talents or whatever, for me, they're ways of living. They're things that have been part of my life or my makeup. Or,
natural. Just who you are.
And I'm I don't consider myself exactly a character because
you're a character.
Oddly enough.
I love you though.
We love you though. We're just saying it's a compliment.
It's just that I have all those kind of, I don't know what you would call those airy sort of things or whatever they are. Right. And then at the same time, I'm a ridiculously responsible person who has managed, real estate, monies, people, all sorts of things. So I have the ability to be incredibly organized and do all these things in the world.
Yeah, you're not flaky.
I started two of them. I started my first business when I was 18. I became a buyer in the produce markets in San Francisco, and I opened up a health food produce store. I hadn't even gone to high school. I'd left, when I went to be with my dad in the pickup truck. Right. All of a sudden, I'm in the produce business, and I decided that's what I'm going to do. All of a sudden, somebody said to me, I heard you're opening a produce stand. I said, you did? I never said that. I said, but it's not a bad idea. All right, I'll do it. And that's what I did. And a lot of beautiful things came out of that. Children and weddings and people. It was a place where people would come and meet other people, and we'd have music on giant reel-to-reels playing. So 6-7 straight hours of rock and roll music, and you could come in there and just have a wonderful time shopping.
That was a different San Francisco.
Well, this was here where we lived. That was I brought the food. No, you'd have to go to San Francisco to buy everything.
Yeah.
I was up here in the country in an area called Sonoma County, and this was toward in an area called Guerneville. Right. So this kitchen, it's now a commercial kitchen. I turned it into a commercial kitchen, but when it was a produce stand, I brought products in that from San Francisco that wasn't up here, bagels and different foods and things that you had to go to the city to get. Yeah. So I had a wonderful reputation. I had a wonderful experience doing it, and I worked 7 days a week. and I
But you
was
loved it.
young and had plenty of energy to do that then.
Yeah. Yeah, you loved
Yes.
it. Have you
Yeah.
ever looked back at past lives to see if anything connects to who you are now?
Well, I've been regressed. When I told you about that time when I was working for Werner Erhardt at this Mind Dynamics, this is just before he started EST, he
Mhm.
decided at the St. Francis Hotel in front of 400 people to put me on stage and regress me.
Wow.
I had never been regressed. I did not know anything about it,
Oh my
but
God.
I can tell you that it's definitely a true thing because my dad was sitting in the audience when he was doing this, and I was saying things that only my dad knew the answer to, not me. And I didn't know why. It's what 1957. What is going on? And so I would, as he kept saying, and now you're at this age, and now you're younger, and I was spewing out things that happened that my dad could not. That was a secret that my dad couldn't believe I was saying.
Oh, wow.
And then he regressed me back to what I believe was another lifetime,
Mm.
and I think it might have been Ireland. Actually, was the place. But in the middle of doing this, he all of a sudden said, "Oh, time is up. We have to stop now." And I just remember being on some cliff in these very like burlappy kind of grayish clothing or something.
Yeah.
And I think like I might, and it was steep cliffs by an ocean. And many years later, when I saw some photos of Ireland, I said, "Oh my God, that looks like the place he regressed me to." So that's the only reason. It's not that I've had an affinity for Ireland. It
Right.
just looked like what I experienced when he did that. And it left me sort of hanging to a point where I did a therapy session with someone to finish it because I'd felt like he didn't know what he was doing. He was just, "Oh, yeah, we're going to regress." You know what I mean? It's not like he was a professional at this.
Right.
And
Oh,
when
wow.
the therapist regressed me back there, we sort of finished out the rest of the experience. And I think that it was possibly a place I had died or passed on or something ended or something happened there at that
Mm.
image. But you know, in doing all these things and speaking with all these people and hearing all these different things about consciousness, I'm not sure what happens except that the body's dead. This piece of flesh, that's definitely done. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
But the spirit or the essence or the consciousness or something I know lives on because I've communicated to it.
Mhm.
But I'm just not sure about the whole reincarnation thing, exactly how it works, or the past lives, how it works. Like you just jump in a body all of a sudden. I don't really know that
Mm.
what the actual
With the schematics of how the
yeah,
process goes. Right.
exactly. And I
Right.
don't even when watching my father dying, it was like you could see him reaching up and that some people were reaching down to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was with my mother and my brother at the time at home when he was dying, and even my brother, who's not into spirituality or any of this whatsoever, we all saw the same thing. We all saw the hands reaching down and him like connecting somehow to this, like he was going up to the spirits of his ancestors or family.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Whether we all imagine that, whether this really is true or not, I can't tell you 100% on these kind of things, except that I know something is living on. There
Mm-hmm.
is something there, whether it's an invisible energy, whether it's, uh, you know, the Akashic records, or I don't know.
It's
I
something for
just
sure.
know that I've touched into this when I've touched into the spirits of dead people.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Have you ever had, and I'm only going to ask this question because a lot of people who have um, are they have experiences where they come back very intuitive. They can remote view. They are telepathic, and that's being an abductee or contactee with extraterrestrials.
Now, it's only September is when I started my podcast show, A Small, Medium, at Large.
Right.
I like
I
that.
like
And
that.
I wrote a book that I'm working on. It's with a publisher now. I don't know if he's going to accept it or not, but I'm hoping to be on a show soon and saying, yes, I'm finally publishing this.
I'd buy that book.
And well, if I don't, I can I'll do self if I don't end up with this last publisher. But anyhow, what was I answering the question of? I got sidetracked.
Abductions, experiences.
So I had not heard about that until September when I started being on all these different shows.
Right.
So I started listening to other people's podcasts. I'd never even, all of a sudden I'm doing a podcast. I never even listened to a podcast. Now I'm listening to all these podcasts and this whole new world's opened up. So I myself had a bizarre experience like that once in my 20s, and I had never talked about it until these shows because it seems like people have insights into it, and I wanted to hear about what they said. So I found it very nice that I was finding insight into something that's scared the shit out of me.
Right.
But I would like to add to that list because I'm not sure about the abductee things. I kind of hadn't, there's a part of it that gives me some sort of fear. But I can tell you for sure, near death, people who've had experiences with near death, people who have done psychedelics, these are all opening pathways.
Yes.
I think that's definite. There's no question about it. Even if they may not notice it that minute or that, if they start to look back, they may start to see a change that did happen in their life. And it actually depends how aware and awake they were in experiencing the near-death experience also.
Yeah,
but I can hear about the abductees, and I all of a sudden the other day I said, maybe I should ask for one of these downloads.
Well, they're quite interesting.
They scare the crap out of me.
What's that?
Downloads, the whole alien thing scares the crap out of me.
Downloads are interesting,
Have you had that happen? Have you experienced that, either of you?
Yes. Yeah, many times.
So Michelle has, but Amelia hasn't.
Amelia's just in denial.
Amelia's got enough on her plate speaking to dead people.
I'm always saying, yes, you have. Stop it.
No.
But whatever, don't listen to me. What do I know? It only happens to me all the time.
I don't permit it. I'm just like, hell to the no. It's not happening.
I know. It's true.
No.
It's true.
It's bad enough I talk to dead people. And people who are in ufology say to me, well, we don't exactly believe in that. I'm like, really? Are you serious now?
It's funny because anybody who's in the paranormal will eventually move over to ufology. I know myself, I've done so many, worked with so many people who have had, horrific experiences, and you go in there and there's also an extraterrestrial connection. So you start wondering, how much of it is one and the same. So eventually we all move over, and I think having experiences as a child and completely not thinking about it all the way into adulthood. Because I had a son who at the time was just terrified of aliens, like Grace. And I'm like, why? Not even thinking about me, watching too much television. But then as he got older, he started recounting experiences. I was mortified. This kid at 5 years old was going around battening down the hatches and making sure windows were locked on the upper level, which would have been quite a feat to get up onto the second floor where the rooms were, and making sure doors were locked. And I'm just like, wow, but in his mind, that helps. I didn't have the heart to say, well, actually, they don't need to do that. They can just slide right through the wall, But then into adulthood, it starts, only recently really started coming back.
Well, my first exposure to a UFO was when we lived in the vegan commune.
Right.
We'd have speakers that would come from all over the world to talk about health and spiritual things. And we had a Hindu monk who lived with us. And
wow.
So I used to see yoga every day going on. We had a guest who my mother and father ended up liking this couple very much. So my mother stayed in contact with them until they passed on. But we went to their house to visit, and he took out and showed me and I remember this, I was only 7. He shows me a photograph of the ship he had gone off in. and told me the whole story about how, it's his abduction, and he went out in his yard and he went off with them, and he speaks to them all the time and all this.
Wow.
So that was actually planted in my brain in 1963. And I was shown photos. And
maybe you had an experience there.
I don't know. I don't think so. But in my 20s was when I had this one particular experience, and it was a sexual experience, and it was with these. Well, now that I've seen all these things, there's people that talk about, oh yeah, that's the Greys, and they. So, but then I didn't, I don't watch science fiction, and I don't know where those images came from. But then when you see them in some of these, shows or things, because now my son and my husband, they love the science fiction stuff, but I didn't go for that. And back then we didn't have that much television reception here anyway. But I saw some different spots in films, and I'd seen this one other thing where it seemed like the place I'd been taken to when I felt that I'd been taken from my bedroom here, though my body was still here. It felt that I was taken away, and I was taken to this place, and I felt like I was examined and probed and done sexual things to. And then I was put in sort of like what a honeycomb looks like, all those little, and then I was like put into something like that. And the whole thing terrified me. And I didn't know when I came back or woke up whether that was, because it didn't feel like a dream. And I know my dreams. And this was so real that, as I said to you, it scared me so that I said, I never want to think about alien type things or any of this ever again, because if I do, then something may happen like this. And that was what I did. And I never discussed it with anyone until I started this craziness in September with all these paranormal shows that I'm on. Everybody's got aliens in the background,
Oh, yeah. Right? Yes. Well, our show right now. Varies around all kinds of different subject matter, not just like paranormal. We actually do very little of it, considering that I've been in the field for like almost 19 years. But extraterrestrial seems to come up in many different fields. It's not just necessarily paranormal or ufology, or it's like ancient history comes in. Somebody comes in and starts talking, and bam, we're back onto aliens. And it's like, it's like, near-death experience, bam, we're back on aliens. I'm like, is there anything they're not involved in? This little bubble-headed dudes. Like, honestly, it seems to be in a lot. Astral projection.
It's aliens. Also in mainstream media now, which has been a long time that's been not spoken about. Yes. And I have met, when I was at that trip in Austin, Texas, meeting with Hal Puthoff, there was a woman I was driving in our car who was I can't remember what her name is, but she had gone to see the man who was dying, who had been at, I don't know if it was Area 51 or which particular thing it was, but she went to interview him in Europe before he died to get any more information from him. And I sort of have chose to like cut that, like say, oh no, that's not real, it doesn't exist. But now that I've listened to these shows and heard these different responses about, oh yeah, many people have experienced a sexual thing or this kind of thing, or being, now I'm starting to feel like, oh, maybe I should be checking into this, or I should find out what's really going on with this. Or, I can't put it into the, oh no, this is crazy anymore. It has to be that there's something going on. And if there wasn't internet and people being able to share their stories, you can't find the commonality that other people are having. You wouldn't be able to know about this, because this is not something you're going to hear in mainstream media, this kind of abduction.
It's always a learning experience.
The people who are telling those stories are highly credible, tons of integrity. You're talking about former CIA operatives and government officials and military, and your pilots. I give the most cases. We've come across this constantly in, on our show, and it's just, I believe in it 1,000%. I would never say that it doesn't exist. I believe it happens. I know Michelle's experiences, other people that I know that have had experiences, but I don't believe I've ever. And if I have, I don't recall it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I have to say,
really does scare the crap out of me. There's no lies. Oh no, Tamara. Tamara said, just look up. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But my husband, who passed through earlier, and saved my day here.
Yes.
He can't wait, for Mr. Science.
Oh,
He's
wow.
no. He said, when they come, I'm jumping on the ship. I said, well, I'm not going with you.
He's going to be the guy out in the yard with the
Gail,
flashlight
you come to my
Come
house.
on, I'm right
You
here.
come to my house, Gail. I'll cook for you. Don't worry about it. You just stay
Found
here.
a woman to go with him. Somebody who interviewed me, Carol Channing, I think her name is, in England.
Right.
And she's very big on the UFO thing and has all these paintings of, aliens, or I'm not sure. I don't think that's the right word anymore. In her house. And when she was interviewing me, I had said to her, I said, well, my husband, she said, I'll go. I said, I'm going. I said, well, you two can go together.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll go to Amelia's house and it'll all be fun.
You come here. I'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. We'll shield together.
But this is something that I think hinders people is fear, and media has a lot to do with that. I think, part of the theory is that they are trying to take fear away, and they are trying to communicate and reach out to individual people, and have been for centuries, for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. Some people believe they were here long before us. So
I agree with you.
Like interterrestrial, basically inner here, or again, multi-terrestrials. It's just dimensional. Like, I don't know. There's a lot to it. It's all fairly interesting, but a lot of people who have abduction, history come back stating, all of a sudden I was psychic. All of a sudden I could read minds. I could hear things. I can communicate. I can remote view. I can tell the future. I can be just like, I just had to ask. It's because, you're kind of a full gambit there. So,
Yeah, that's a definite. I wonder if you're just not aware of it.
Is that what happened to you? You were abducted and then you found that all these different things became alive inside you?
I've been very gifted. Well, I'm not telepathic by any means. I'm very I've had experiences since I was like a little child. Like, my mother remembers me talking about stuff at the age of like 4 and 5, but I have no recollection of that. Heck, they don't even remember anything now, because if I had to catch them in the act, I wouldn't even know what was happening. Seriously. So, but we do have to do a station ID and a sponsor ID. I've got the cup up there, so I know I've got to shut up and let her do it.
That's how she knows, right? Because I don't want to cut her off. She's got so many amazing experiences. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and myself, Amelia Pisano. Tonight's amazing guest, and we're definitely have to have her back on, is Gail Hayssen. And we are airing live through New Orleans on 105.3 FM radio. Bear with me, I don't have my notes. We are streaming live right now on UFO Paranormal Radio and International Public Radio, right? UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials Radio. There are many radios that we are streaming on. Come join us in the chat. If you're just tuning in, give us a half hour and come back and listen or watch from the beginning, because you don't want to miss any of it. We are sponsored, and we are so lucky. This gentleman is an award-winning composer. Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, is the voice and the magic music that you hear at the beginning and the end of our show. Justin Snicker, you can find him on Facebook and Instagram, as well as purchasing his music on Bandcamp or on Amazon. And even if you go to social media, you'll find the links. Tune into any one of our shows and you'll hear it. Wait for the end and make sure you listen. He is amazing. He's got all kinds of music. We are, of course, from day one, and we hope forever, Folgers Coffee Crystals sponsoring us every time we're on. Thank you so much, guys. We love you.
Perfect. We're back.
And we're done. Hi, Cece.
Hi, Cece.
Interesting show, Gail. Yeah, Cece's probably going to want to write a book on you now.
Anyway, yeah. So it's definitely interesting journey. So from this point on, you're a scientific guinea pig. Is this something that you plan on doing more of, or?
Well, I never felt like a guinea pig. I just felt like I was getting the opportunity to learn more things about myself and what I was capable of doing.
Right.
And the relationships I have with the scientists that I've worked with has opened up all sorts of doors of interesting people and places and events. And I can't, I realized I did do a lot of, a lot of this was all volunteer,
Right.
but I feel like I got back much more things than money from being involved these 20 years with these different
It gives
scientists.
you more credibility working with the science community also.
It
Mhm.
does. I get, well, when people read the bio, they get impressed, you know?
Yeah, the bio
It is
helps, but
impressive. You're impressive, Gail. Like
yeah.
you're so humble and, really salt of the earth. And I love that about you, because most
Uh,
people who have just a third of what you are not like that at all, you know?
um, I feel like uh, when I was a little girl and my dad would tell me that I had special gifts, he would always say to me, "But you have to remember, you never ever use any of this for money."
It's
And
true.
so that was
Yeah.
planted in
It's
my
true.
head at a very young age. And
Mhm.
so I've never, when I do a shamanic blessing or healing for somebody, I don't charge any money for that.
No,
Yeah.
it's true.
And
It
I
makes it
give
that
of
much more
myself,
powerful.
what it's more like not giving of myself. It's more like being a vessel and kind of stepping out of the way and letting the different things come through me in those, kind of experiences.
Mhm.
And in the working with the different scientists, I feel kind of honored because I have papers that are published with them. So my name is on these papers. And,
Mhm.
I wasn't an academic person. I told you I didn't go to high school. I
Right.
received a honorary PhD in 2014
Very
from
nice.
the Institute of Science in Mongolia.
Very
And
nice.
so I found that my validations and things have come from the oddest places
And life
and life
experiences.
experiences. And
Yeah.
um, I had a lot of trauma as a child growing up. I've experienced a lot of trauma,
Mhm.
and I've only grown in a positive way from the different experiences, and
Mm.
only learned more about compassion and caring for other people's pains because of experiencing them yourself.
I
Mhm.
agree.
And
And you had supportive parents, it seems. Like a lot of parents don't want,
no, they were crazy.
okay, crazy is okay
But
if they're
that's
Crazy is
supportive.
good.
No, because some parents, you have a gifted child. I was fortunate that, my mother was also gifted and had an understanding of it. My dad was just pretending it wasn't a thing. But it sounds like you had a pretty decent support system. You weren't discouraged.
No, my grandmother was like that. And my
Right.
father used to say that she's a very spiritual woman, a very spiritual woman. She always spoke to the dead.
Right.
And I I I understood her way. It seemed like it did not seem strange to me. So I am very grateful to who they were for that. I would have liked to have
Right.
not been raised a vegan, I can tell you that.
Oh God, no. I have family members who are vegan. They're
Are you
healthy,
still
healthy.
practicing vegan, Gail?
Yeah.
What's that?
Are you still practicing vegan?
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
No.
Oh, you can come over then.
No, my method is I
Yeah.
think you should eat everything.
Right.
You
Oh,
know,
wow. I love that because you've
uh,
experienced
Because
it.
Amelia does.
well,
Amelia does eat
yeah,
everything. Yeah, it's very
it's
deceiving.
Yeah.
it's if
But I do.
I don't have good discipline when it comes to food, but if a person can give them, if nothing in excess and you eat, you could eat everything. You should be able to eat everything.
Yeah.
Also, I like to travel around the world if I can to different places,
Hmm.
and you have to be flexible. You don't want to
You
go there and
do.
say, well, all they have is sheep here. Well, I don't eat sheep.
No,
Yeah,
exactly. I know
see, but
exactly.
at that point I'd be vegan.
Yeah,
I don't eat everything.
I eat
Meaning I
pizza
eat a
anywhere in the
lot.
world that I go.
Yeah,
Just saying.
I pick out
When
pizza and
all
french
else
fries
fails,
everywhere.
eat the
I'll tell you
pizza.
the most unusual thing I ate. I was served fried bees in Japan, which I
Oh,
didn't eat, but
Really?
I did eat the lizards. We roasted lizards,
oh,
and it was
Joe
in a
would love you.
very, very expensive, high class businessman's ryokan. So these are
yes.
like exotic specialties. These are not. It's not street
Right.
food.
No.
And
Right.
but the most unusual one I had, which I didn't know that that's what I was eating, and had I known, I probably wouldn't have eaten it. It was the dried blood of the deer
Oh,
that was caught in the Huichol community by sacredly. not just killing the animal. It's done
Yeah.
in a sacred way.
Right.
And that is what they use as their cure for certain ailments. And
Right.
I found out that I had cancer when I was up there. And
Mm.
a shaman I had been told back here that I had cancer. I was in my 30s, but it was only up there that I really believe, because we were raised with no doctors or dentists either in the vegan life. And so I didn't really believe I had cancer. I figured, oh, that's some fake test or whatever. It was
Mm-hmm.
Right.
cervical cancer. And when I had a shaman do a healing on me, he stopped right there in my body and my crotch and said, "You've got something here. It has to come out. It's big. It's hard. It needs to go." And
Oh
so
wow.
at that moment, that was when I realized I really did have cervical cancer. I was crying at the top of the mountain there. And my friend's father, who was in his late 90s then, saw that I was crying and he said, "I want to prepare this for you." He didn't speak, um, he spoke Huichol and there's Spanish, and my Spanish is más o menos. That's why I didn't know I was eating blood. And it's powdered with a mortar and pestle, and it was
Yes.
given to me with a tortilla, so that you take the tortilla and scoop up the dried up powdery stuff. So I thought I was eating like deer jerky or something. I didn't know what I was eating. I just took it,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
and it healed me in the sense that I was so depressed to know that I had cancer and was I going to die and what was going to happen to me. All of that fear and all of the feelings of my body like being failing me or something all left, and I felt like Superwoman for 4 days, like I had
Wow.
taken the best vitamin something or other you could ever possibly have.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And whether this healing occurred or not, I had to say that the doctor who performed the surgery on me, because I wouldn't take surgery right away, and they told me it was going to spread everywhere in my body and I needed surgery right away. I said, "I'll give it a year." I said, "In a year, I'll come back and take another test and we'll see." And during that year, I did all this different spiritual healing and retreats and meditations. And I was eating all very healthy foods that put oxygen into your body and stuff. And I said, well, if they look and it's still there and it's big, then I'll do the surgery. So it was still there. It had grown bigger. And when he did the surgery and I was coming out, he said to me, and this was the doctor, "I don't know what you did with your Indians. I don't know what you were doing out there," he said, "but you did something." He said, "Because instead of the cancer spreading to your other organs," he said, "it encapsulated itself with a skin and it just formed a skin around the entire tumor." He said, and he took out
Wow.
the tumor. And that, that was more than 30 years ago. And I've never had the cancer ever return.
Wow,
So
that's phenomenal.
that's just my little, I think we're probably coming to a close.
No, we're good for a bit still. Wow.
Were you hoping?
No. So non-conventional treatment. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, so you had to
that's
do all of them, you know.
Absolutely. And it's
And
the spiritual and the intent, right? And the
right.
belief.
And there is something where I needed the mechanics of someone cutting this out. And by the way, they cut out half of my cervix. And I was 33 at the time.
mhm.
At 35, I gave birth to my second child at home in bed to
Wow,
what the midwife called a clinically perfect birth. And the only thing that
perfect.
was used was olive oil. And then I
Mm-hmm.
gave birth again with half a cervix at 41 in an underwater birth where my daughter was born in my bathtub and floated out.
Mm-hmm.
And neither
Wow.
time did I have to have stitches or there was no medical interference. I had a doctor at that one. Nobody
Mhm.
wanted to deliver me because I was a high risk birth from when I'd
Well,
given
they were
birth my
afraid of
first
you
time.
dropping a
Yeah.
baby during pregnancy.
Never,
Yeah.
nothing. So
Excellent.
I'm just saying that's a good like after report.
That's a really
Absolutely.
good
It gives hope to people who might not have it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
So
no, it's
amazing.
true. It's
that really
true.
ended that story.
No, I think that's phenomenal. It sounds like
Mhm.
you've had a wonderful life. Your journey has just been full of interesting, um, experiences. But where do you go from that? I mean, it's kind of a hard act to follow. Woodstock's a hard act to follow, but
Yeah.
everything else you've been through, um, how does it get any better? What do you plan for yourself
Well,
now?
I
With a
think
book,
that
right?
I'm hoping to get if my book isn't accepted by this publisher it's at right now, who is reviewing it, then I'm just going to go self-publish because
I hope
I-
so.
I'm on all these different shows, and I didn't. I originally started this whole podcast thing with the LIT media because I thought I was going to use this to promote my book. And when she
Right.
said you're really good for podcasts, I met her in a remote viewing study group, Michelle, and I couldn't understand what she was talking about. What am I going to do? Who wants to listen to me? Why would anyone want to hear this? Well, it turns out people are enjoying hearing it, and they're actually getting something out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So if I can share stories with people and somehow it helps them to open up or share another story or solve something inside them, and at the same time I'm also receiving all sorts of wonderful validations from people and things, I'm creating this whole new network of people that are coming into my life through
Yeah.
this form I never realized I would even be doing. So
There you
if you
go.
asked me in August or July, are you going to be a podcaster? I would say, what, are you crazy?
You're raising the vibration with your
Oh,
podcast.
so I'm just happy to be touching people in whichever way it happens, and I'm only coming from like an authentic, sincere place. I'm not selling anything, and I'm just sharing stories. And I'm enjoying meeting all these different people. And I'm hoping that it does something positive out there because we're really in need of that.
You're not wrong with that. I think we do need to just raise some vibrations and give hope. Pay it forward. I always look at it that way. When you have an ability, I've never charged for any of my services. I've worked all kinds of long hours and you know, um, helping people because I believe that when you're given an ability, you have to pay it forward. You have to.
I
It
always feel selfish when I help people because I think I feel better about it than they do. I'm just like,
Yeah,
oh, this is awesome, really. Like, I'm just
yeah,
so happy that, there's a good outcome. And sometimes it's sad because you're bringing somebody home that's deceased, but whatever it is, you're helping give somebody closure and answers and
missing persons and things like
missing
that. Yeah,
persons, cold cases. It's important. And even with the malevolent cases that we do, it's so important to give people peace,
Hmm.
you know. And I
hope
feel
more
like
than
that's a
anything.
gift that we were given so that we could help.
Mm,
You know, I always help in whichever way I can. And, in some of it, it may be those kind of things where you help with somebody who's passed on, or it may be like I bought a ton and a half of masa for all the peyoteros when I was in the Huichols so that they would
Oh,
have food for a long
yeah.
time.
mm.
So I feel that service, that's not what I think we're really here for. Or at least that's what
Service
I
to
feel I'm here
others.
for. Whatever the service is,
Yeah.
I raised children. I did all kinds of things participating. When my children went to school, any Huichol or shaman that was here, I brought to that classroom so that
Hmm.
those kids all got exposed to things they would have never seen had I not brought them there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And some of
Right.
them, they're all adults now, and some of them say, I'll never forget when you used to pick us up. There was always people in different color clothing dressed in your car.
That's okay
That's a
though.
great
That's
experience.
culture, kids.
That's culture,
you know.
damn straight. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Everything's so regimented. But no, I think it is about service to others. There's too much service to self individuals out there. And
Yeah.
I think it is really important to serve others and to continuously pay it forward. I've had people say to me, well, I want to repay you somehow. And I'm just like, pay it forward to someone else. That's how you can repay. Pay it forward. No matter how small, just do that. And I think with that being said, if everybody did even one good gesture every single day, everyone just one little thing. Can you
It's
imagine?
abundance, and it makes more abundance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I just want to give a shout out to Sherry because Sherry, you help a lot of people as well.
Yes.
You do a lot,
Yes,
and we love
exactly.
you.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. So thank you. You're very, very, you're very sweet. Thank you. It's a nice compliment. But you know what? I think, with that being said, we can agree to disagree. Some people out there, I don't begrudge anybody for doing, being gifted and doing what you need to do. We
No.
are all on different journeys. We all have different paths, and that's where we leave it.
Right. Oh, no, I don't judge for, there are
Yeah,
people that
yeah,
it's their bread and butter, what they're doing, and
yeah,
they need to do that. And
yeah.
that's their energetic exchange. I'm just
Yeah.
saying for me, my
Yes,
personal thing,
yeah,
and it was from being raised by my dad saying over and
yep,
over again, don't ever do that. Don't
yep.
ever do that.
Yeah.
And so that's my, just like being told, brush your teeth, brush your teeth.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that completely. I remember when I started this and I was just doing just the readings like people start a little bit because I really shut down when my daughter was growing up to keep her protected. And I remember not being able to take money. And I don't criticize anyone who does.
No,
I
no.
just didn't feel comfortable. I felt sick, physically ill taking
Hmm.
it. And then I started asking them to donate it to charity because I do a lot of bereavement reads for people who've lost their children. And I would always say to them, well,
Oh,
just put it towards Sick Kids Hospital or put it towards whatever charity, you feel comfortable with.
Mm.
that's a
Yeah.
noble position for you to take because that's one of the, I believe, the biggest, hardest losses to
Oh,
experience.
it's
Uh,
heartbreaking.
and it's very heartbreaking.
Mm.
Yeah, it is.
So my hat's off to you because that's
Oh
not an
my
easy
gosh.
one
No, no,
to
no,
go
no,
into.
no, no. I'm just doing what feel I'm told to do, but thank you. No, that's a
Hmm.
huge compliment coming from you.
It's that
No,
true? It's not.
seriously. Oh,
Yeah. So
it's hard. Yeah.
what's next for Gail? The book,
Well,
aside from the book.
I want the book to, like the book to happen. Also because I just need to get it done. Like I'm
Mm.
tired of sitting around. I need to, put that. I like to finish everything that I start.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So I would like to do that, and I, when travel becomes available again, I want to zip back to Mongolia and see all my friends there. I would like to travel to other places in the world because
Yeah.
that's such a, you were talking about things that make you more open, whether it's abductions or what happens to that.
Yeah.
When I travel to places that are very ancient, old
Mhm.
places, and I'm sure the both of you have the same experience as
Yeah.
well as others, those open me up more.
Mm.
Everything, when you go into an ancient Mayan temple or the ruins, and or I laid in the king's something or other inside the middle of the Giza pyramid.
Me
And
too.
yes, did you lay in that
I know the
stone
one.
thing?
Yes, yes.
You know,
I
uh,
love it.
that brought sound that came out of me that I've never been able to duplicate, or I don't even know
You're
where the
not the
sound
first
came
person
from.
to say that.
I just
Shorty
laid in
Spellback
there and
said the
just
same thing.
With a sound? Wow.
Yes,
I opened my mouth and the sound came out, a
Oh, I
long
remember
sound.
Freddie saying that. Yeah.
it's true. It's just
And
one heck of a
some
power place.
yeah, very powerful places. So
You
when they
would love talking to him.
go to powerful places, powerful things happen to me.
Right,
Mhm.
I'm like a sponge or something. I don't know.
right.
Yeah.
That's
Conduit.
okay, though.
Conduit too.
That's
Yeah.
okay. So, I mean, yeah, hopefully the world will get into a more peaceful place. So I know I'm itching to get back to traveling, and
Mm.
there's a whole world to explore,
There
and I
is, and
feel like
beside that, I live on 15 acres of apple trees out
Oh.
here in Sonoma County, and I've spent most of this entire I have processed incredible amounts of food into jams and jellies and dried foods and frozen
Yeah.
things, and
Cider and
so I cider, I have an apple press. I'm just saying, so my
my
other
girlfriend used
thing.
to have an orchard. I loved it when she lived there.
Oh, it's a pretty great thing to raise. I
Yeah.
raised all my. I've lived in this house now for almost 45 years,
wow.
so
Oh,
I've been on
nice.
this land for 45 years. I was initiated as a shaman here. My dad's ashes are here. I mean, the
Oh.
land is a very, and it's covered with something called sandy loam soil. So you
Hmm.
just stick anything in the ground and
And it
everything
grows.
grows.
Right.
So the other
Oh,
thing that I
amazing.
would say would be in my futures is that I'm doing all these things on my property to make it as most self-sufficient as it can be. We have all solar panels for all
Nice.
our
Off the grid.
electricity.
Yeah.
We have only wells. There's no city water out here. So
Mhm.
I've put in more storage tanks, and so I'm doing things and learning about what I can do to also leave food here growing for the next, whoever planted those
Right.
apple trees that we enjoy. Now I want them to be able to have figs or whatever things. We have
Oh,
lemons,
yum.
and also the climate is changing. So certain fruits that did very well here
Yeah.
aren't doing as well. And then certain fruits that were struggling are doing very well now. So
Right.
like we had incredible amounts of peaches, but all of a sudden we don't have any plums. So
Right.
You need to
it's,
grow cactus pears.
I do. Which
I
ones?
just got that in my head. I don't know. I just
Oh, the
got you
cactus
need
pear, the purple ones that grow up. My
yeah,
son
that you
loves
eat.
those.
Yeah, you
Yes,
need to grow those.
they grow here very well.
Oh,
Right. There you go.
I mean, I see people where, the whole side of their front yard, and you
yeah.
see tons of that fruit on it.
The only time I ever saw them in person was in Italy because it was my grandfather had an olive grove and we had nuts and stuff like that he had
Yeah.
grown and grapes, and I saw the cactuses because I love cactus pears, but to pick them, not so much.
Oh,
Right.
you need really good gloves.
Oh,
But
steel like meat handler butcher gloves because the thistles, the thorns are like this big.
the
Yeah.
other thing that's we grow here, we have walnuts, and that it is the area, walnuts, persimmons. I planted grapes, so I make all this Concord grape jelly. So
Yeah.
whenever someone's a guest on my show, they get a homemade banana nut bread and a jelly.
Very
I'll
nice.
send them.
I'm coming.
Very nice.
I
We have
just saw a
couple.
question about what
Yeah,
the King's Chamber
we
was
have a couple of
originally.
questions for you. So that's the
Yeah.
first
And
one.
I just, because of these internets, I met someone from Egypt, an Egyptian professor who taught here in the United States. And I wish I could remember what he told me, because I can't answer the question because I can't remember. But he did tell me what the chamber was for.
Oh, you don't remember?
Do you have your podcast in archive?
My podcast, the ones that he's not coming on until I interview him next month. The
Okay.
Egyptian, and we're going to do a whole hour and a half about the history, because he's
There you go,
been
Dave.
sending me, about how they had the giant ceremony
Yes.
of the opening of the
The New
Luxor of
Cairo Museum.
all the Sphinx.
Yes, that's right.
And maybe when you were there, I don't know what year you were there, but I was there in 2010, and we
Yeah.
were just walking the streets and seeing everything just all being
Just
dug up.
starting.
So to be able to have somebody I don't even know, but I met him because of this, send
Fantastic,
me
isn't it?
these. Yeah, he heard me on some show and contacted me, and then I said, "How about coming on my show?" And he said, "I've never been on one." I said, "I think it would be great fun." And so he's been
Right.
sending me the material and the photos, and it's going to be a fascinating show
Sounds
about
like it.
the
Yeah.
history of different parts of Egypt.
Very
Right.
cool.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, here's a paranormal question for you. I'm doing an investigation in Radisson, a 10-year-old child spirit who loves hide and seek. Any advice on how to get his confidence to come forward? Gail isn't a researcher, but as a medium.
I would think that I was just thinking exactly that if he were to have a medium go with him to this place, and the first thing that comes to mind to me is if the person that went there could be in a childlike spirit way themselves, not entering as a researcher, not entering as somebody that's trying to investigate, but
Right.
entering someone as with a childlike spirit with them. I don't mean being a spirit, but I mean being childlike in their mediumship. That
Right.
maybe that would be a way, maybe bring a couple of toys with them or something a 10-year-old might.
Yeah, and leave them there. Don't take
Yeah,
them back.
and then just
Yeah,
and
don't
then
take them
just
away.
Don't
and
take them
also
away. Leave them there.
right, and also
Yeah.
the same kind of approach of, I'm not, I'm just here to just let you know that I'm here. If we would like to play together, that's what comes up for me.
Right.
Something very gentle and not intrusive.
Because they're still children.
Your children.
Exactly.
Children
Yeah.
without
You
body.
have to get on their level.
Exactly.
And if you know what year that spirit is from, try and focus and use that as well going in. But very important. I know we had this discussion that please don't take the toys back. If you're bringing toys, leave them there, because it might take you more than one time to communicate with them. They may not trust you the first
You
time.
don't give any child a toy and take it away.
No.
That simple. So, well, we are coming to the top of the hour. So this is the part of the show where you tell everybody how to find you and when and where.
An easier way for them to find me now.
Wow, okay.
And I have to say, because, well, I'm really new at this, as I told you, so I couldn't even get onto the StreamYard, so
That's all right.
No, you had it. You just didn't realize you didn't exit the last one. You had it, though. What is it? I thought you did fine.
What? I forgot what you just asked me now that I...
No.
How to contact me. So... Instead of giving you all the different things, my beautiful, wonderful daughter made me a fantastic website. My son made the music on my podcast shows.
Oh.
And I have like 10 really fine stories that are published on medium.com. So if you just go to my website, a small medium at large.co.
A small? Or small medium?
No, it has to be
okay.
A small medium at large.
I'll put that on our site.
Is my website. And there they can see all the shows I've been on. And like, if you send me a link to yours, I'll put it on my website.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
And also, if anyone wants to see the different, I've done a lot of podcasts, but we're only releasing 2 a month. We're doing it every other Wednesday. So there's 9 shows there right now on the website. There'll be another one coming out this Wednesday in January with Nick Cook. And that would really be the place they could find everything, like a one-stop shop if they want to read a story. Also there, they'll find photos of the Huichol Indians and photos of the Mongolian shamans. So there'll be nice things to see there.
So a small medium at atlarge.co.
CO.
Okay. I've got that. I'll put that on there.
Because there's another person out there that's small, medium at large, but she's not A and she's COM.
And she's not you. Right. And she's not you.
That's right.
Right. If they type in anywhere, Gail, Gail Hayssen, Hayssen, that'll also take them to those places.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, it was such a pleasure having you on. You're so much fun. You're delightful. You're still that flower girl, just saying. You're very cool. So, wow. It was really a pleasure. And we would love to have you on again.
Well, that would be wonderful.
Into the new year.
I'm going to tell my brother that I met a real flower child, because that's what he calls me. He calls me a flower child. I'm going to tell him I met a real one.
That's it, exactly.
Women, so it's very nice to meet you both.
You're amazing. You. I am so honored right now. You have no idea. Thank you so much.
Not sure why, but I'm glad.
No.
You're fantastic.
It's all very good. It's all very good. So thank you very much again for joining us, and I will be in touch, and have a happy new year.
Yeah,
happy new year to you guys too.
All right, darling. Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Really fun time.
Thank you.
That was great.
Well, we've come to the end of another fantastic segment. That was really a lot of fun. Took us a little bit to get her on, but wow, it was well worth the wait. So thank you everyone who joined us in chat. You guys always make it so much more fun, just saying. And we do look forward to your comments. And of course, thank you to Gail Hayssen just for being awesome. She's just really, really wonderful. Huge thank you to Folgers Coffee, who sponsor us each and every show. Huge thank you to Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker, for providing us with your music and your voice for our intro and outro. Please remember to stop by our station's YouTube channels and subscribe. That would be International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio, and UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. Say that all in one breath. So subscribe. Head on over to Facebook, of course, and find us on The Outer Realm, and show us a little love by giving us a like. And if you're looking to be on the show, or you know someone you'd want to see on the show, I only respond to people who email. I can't do it via all the social media. There's just too much. So please just go to the Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. The Outer Realm Contact at gmail.com. Tomorrow night, we welcome for the very first time Robert Lindsay Milne. You may have seen him on a few other shows. He's doing the circuit now. He seems like a lot of fun, and I'm sure we're going to have a good time with him. He's going to be talking about psychic gifts, astrology, predictions, I'm told. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So until then, y'all behave, and we are going to see you tomorrow night. I hope, guys, I hope you're going to come in. So thank you. Good night, and see you tomorrow.
You have been listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, airing live every Wednesday and Thursday evening, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 to 10 p.m. Central, on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.